His latest swipe, come and see the dead bodies. Michael, you're in the Maldives. Let's discuss with Agriculture Minister David Littleproud and from 2GB and 4BC, Chris Smith. Morning, lads.
Morning.
David, a lot of serious issues to discuss regarding the crisis in India, but if you're in the Maldives, I mean, come on.
Yeah, mate, Michael Slater needed to get over himself. He's acting like a sport prat. No one's underestimating the harrowing impacts that are having on the Indian people over there, or on the Australians that are stuck there. But Australian government's primary responsibility is to keep its people safe. And sometimes we have to make tough decisions for the greater good. Now, Michael Slater can sit on the beach and slam us all over here in Australia. These are tough decisions, and I can tell you we're very empathetic with not only the Australians there, but also those thousands of Indians that are dying every day. But this is a pandemic that he knew he was travelling in. Yes, we granted him authority to travel, but there's this thing called personal responsibility. So take some personal responsibility. He actually has the resources to look after himself, and we're going to try and look after those Australians that are over there, and we're also going to try and help those Indians. But he's acting like a sport prat, and he just needs to grow up and think about the big issues that are at play here and how we as a government are just trying to work through this as quickly as we can, but we've got to keep Australians safe first and foremost.
I know what you should do, David. Maybe you should think about fining him or throwing him in the clink when he gets home. No?
No. I think we'll let him go, but I think he's doing enough damage by himself.
All right, if Slats is going to be let out, then no one's got a chance of getting thrown in the clink, which is good news. Chris, I get the feeling Slats has waited an awful long time to be recognised in the foreign diplomacy role.
Correct. Outside of which way does the ball swing, he's never had an adult conversation. Grow up, Michael Slater. The wave in India wasn't caused by the Prime Minister. The fact that they have decided to pause trips from India was the wish of the Chief Medical Officer, not the Prime Minister. Wake up. If you want to have an adult conversation, talk like an adult.
OK, let's talk about adult things. Howard Springs exclusively set aside for returned travellers from India. It looks like that is going to be the case. When do those flights begin, David? Are you in a position to tell us? And why can't we open up? Why doesn't the federal government just bite the bullet and set up these facilities across Australia, because it ain't going anywhere fast?
Well, look, the temporary suspension has been set down to the 15th of May, and that, as we've just talked about, was set by the Chief Medical Officer, and that's who we listen to, not Michael Slater, and that's what we'll continue to listen to. But we are trying to get those 9,000 Australians home, and particularly those that are most vulnerable and most exposed. So we're doing that as quickly as we can, but we've got to make the tough decisions about keeping Australians safe, and this is what we're trying to do as quickly as we can. We've taken control of Howard Springs. The states, when all this hit, we said we'd look after JobKeeper and spending billions of dollars to keep the economy going. The states who own the health tick in terms of the quarantining said that they wanted to own the quarantine arrangements, because each state wanted to do a little bit different. If federation was working, I think the states would be able to achieve this. In fact, most of the states have had proposals in front of them from Aspen Medical and Palladium Medical for months about creating quarantine facilities whereby that people can come into. And these aren't fly-by-the-night organisations. These are actually internationally recognised health organisations that deal in things like Ebola. So these are the opportunities. If we work together and federation work, the states could take the lead. They're going to have some courage, because this thing's not going to go away for some time.
But you'll pay for it.
And there are opportunities there for us to think pragmatically.
But you'll pay for it.
Well, we've already paid for JobKeeper, and that's the thing, is we set a partnership. They wanted to pay for the quarantine, which we respected, because they own the health protocols. They get the last say on health. But we said we'd look after JobKeeper, keeping the economy going. But we just got to look at practical and pragmatic solutions, because we're going to be living with COVID for some times, and we've just got to think through this sensibly. And what are the options? And, you know, when you've got medical companies coming forward with these things that have great experience, why shouldn't the state premiers have a look at them?
Proper facilities, Chris, are a no-brainer in each state. Now, how it's divided up and how it's paid for, I mean, and as we've said all the way along, this is not going anywhere.
I disagree.
Do you?
I disagree. Brad Hazzard has handled this superbly as a health minister in New South Wales, better than any of the other health ministers says. Why would you take people away from the best medical facilities that you have in the capital city?
So the majority of the population isn't exposed around those big population bases around hotels?
Exposed. We've had small leakages out of hotel quarantine. It's been jumped on very quickly. and we've resolved it. This isn't a big problem. We're handling it, and if someone gets really, really sick, they're in the middle of the city, they're 1 kilometre away from the best hospitals in the world. That's the way it's got to be. Howard Springs is not an example that people should be using because it's only 19 kilometres away from the central area of Darwin.
I think most of the time you're in tune with the Australian public, but I think the Australian public right now would rather have it just a little bit further away.
Oh, well, let's just sort of keep it out of my backyard. Sorry, we've all got to live with it and we've got to deal with it, and we've got to use hotel quarantine because we've got 3 levels of protection here. You've got the army, you've got the medics, you've got the security guards. It works. Yes, it's not perfect, but it works.
Do you know what you need, I think, Chris?
What?
A trip to the Maldives.
Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? Long Island iced tea.
Just relax.
At 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Relax.
I'll carry the bags.
Let's go.
Good on you, David, and good luck at Beef Week in Rockhampton. It's a terrific week up there in central Queensland, and it's terrific for the country. Good on you, mate. Thank you. Good on you, Chris.